Good morning, or good afternoon, or good evening, everyone. My name is Flor Dorsley Moore. I'm the director for the Online Career Services team at Berkeley College, and I want to invite you to join me tonight in my What Can I Do with My Fashion Major online event. So, here you're going to learn about some of the job titles that are, fairly common in the fashion industry. You may not be familiar with some of these titles, and some you may already know. I just want to give some of the majors that I work with some ideas about what kind of opportunities exist within the fashion major, and also share a little bit about some of the software programs that you should be very skilled in order to be successful with this major. So I hope that this information will be helpful for you. And at the end, I will also share contact information if you have further questions. So let's get started. So, according to the Occupational Outlook Handbook, which is published by the Department of Labor for the United States, the fashion industry is a international industry, so it's very good for our online students, which are from all over the world, and it ranges from a variety of different um, job, functions. So what I'd like you to keep in mind is, don't just think about, a lot of people think about the creative side of fashion with the designers, some of the visual merchandisers, even in the showroom, some of the display people or event planning people. But you also, have people that work on the more technical side, the production side, supply chain management side. And you also have to keep in mind that there are people that work on the clothing manufacturing, shoes manufacturing, and accessory manufacturing side. And not just manufacturing, of course, there's distribution, there's sales, there's marketing. So, sometimes when I'm talking to students, they are a little bit limited in their range. They may only think about women's wear when there's children's wear, men's wear, of course. There's even, an area of home fashions where, people talk about designing, their home, and that goes into some of the interior design. But there's also, a growing interest in some of my students on home fashions. So I touch a little bit on those careers as well. So you'll see on this slide, it talks a little bit about how the industry is described in the Occupational Outlook Handbook. It's a great resource. If you go to onetonline.org, and of course, if you reach out to your assigned career counselor or myself, I can share some of the resources with you where you can find even more information on these specific types of job titles. But for now, I'm going to go into a little bit of the descriptions. And these descriptions, I think, will help you to understand some of the variety that exists within the fashion major. I'm always surprised when I hear so many students want to be buyers, but there are so many other job descriptions and job titles that exist within the industry. So I'm going to share with you some of the more common fashion job descriptions. So we'll start off with designer. Of course, everybody kind of, thinks about the fashion designer. There's a brand new film. I'm going to date this webinar a little bit, but there's a brand new film that's out called Phantom Thread, and that's about the fashion industry. I've heard it's doing quite well among the critics. But that is a film, that features the fashion designer who is, creating the products, the apparel or the accessories or whatever it may be. And they're responsible for, the concept, the sketching, the fabric choices, down to all the different details that pattern makers, artists, illustrators, people that go in. They're also the people that go in on the initial fitting to make sure that their design, is actually able to be produced in a way that can be displayed during a fashion show or a trunk show, perhaps. So, they have to be very um, accessible and have good communication skills to describe their ideas and their vision to the team that they're working with. And certainly, they have to have that creativity to, you know, um, come up with new trends, but also be aware of past um, markets and the competition, certainly as well. Because, it's something to create something, that is avant garde and new, but certainly we know that the fashion industry has been hurting in terms of sales. So there has been, I think, even stronger attention to, sales as there may not have been in the past. So let's talk about editors. So editors in fashion magazines or fashion publications, whether they be online or in print, have to be keenly aware of the fashion scene, interpreting, what they see is happening in the industry for their readers, determining and setting the tone and the direction of the publication's content. So they're out there the sampling merchandise, selecting those that will be featured in articles or within even the pages of some of the advertisements, right? So I did work for a magazine at one point. It wasn't a fashion magazine, but it did feature some fashion elements. So there was a fashion column, and there's an enormous amount of pressure to make sure that what's being featured in the magazine falls in line with the readership, and also to a large extent some of the advertisers that are in the magazine. So these editors also travel to fashion shows around the world. They communicate frequently with publicists, designers, buyers, stylists. As you can see, they work with the writers, of course, and many of the writers are freelance writers, but they edit the pieces to fit the publication's tone, style, and audience. Here are a couple more fairly common ones. We'll start off at the upper right with the merchandiser. Obviously that's someone who looks at the store's budget, sets goals for what they're going to be selling, looks at the quality level and price points for whatever merchandise is going to be in the store, determines the markup, and what might be their potential profitability for any merchandise, um, looks at the information that the store is putting out there and conveys what the staff in the design needs to know about the merchandise, collects and prepares the merchandise, plans product categories, classes, types, balances the stock, analyzes sizes against sales. So they're constantly looking at how they're going to organize the merchandise within the store to meet their targets and certainly sell within the market that store is trying to attract. And then on the lower left, we talk about the fashion director and coordinator roles. So those are people who develop and maintain a retailer's fashion perspective, plans the fashion line, gives it direction, talks about the trends and how that line fits in to a particular concept, and of course make sure that the line presents a strong image so that they can distinguish themselves among other fashion lines maybe coming out at the same time, or maybe that might have been presented in the past. All right, so here we have, the buyer. If you look at the lower left-hand corner, most people know what that person is. They work closely with the account executives and store managers to choose the right merchandise that's going to be displayed within the store and sold by the retailers. or wholesalers as well. So you have buyers for the wholesale side as well as the retail side. They work with the planners. They work with production. They pay attention to costing, sourcing, buying fabrics and trims for to produce the line, and also to be able to forecast monthly how the lines are going, how the various merchandise is selling. They work with various people on the executive teams in marketing strategies, and they have to be very, very well versed in crunching the numbers to make sure that they're looking at the market data, looking at consumer research for that particular merchandise, so that there's not a whole lot of merchandise left over after a season that hasn't sold. A buyer has to be able to kind of walk that fine line between buying something that is hot and new and trendy, but also making sure that they have some of those timeless pieces that maybe clients may also be looking for. So they maintain good relationships with vendors, and negotiate fair rates for whatever merchandise is being provided. And they're always trying to maximize sales. So, for people that want to go into buying, you have to know how to crunch numbers. You have to know how to do market analysis. You probably will want to have a good grounding in the business of fashion on the retail side, on the wholesale side, if you can, and maybe even working on some of the production side, because that is a corporate, the buyer position is a corporate position that really requires a lot of knowledge on all of those different areas and angles of the industry. Now let's look at the marketing aspect. So marketing works very closely with the designers, the buyers. They're the ones that send the message, right? To drive store traffic, to create a campaign so that customers fall in love with whatever the merchandise happens to be, or the line, or the brand. Maybe it's a brand new line of clothing that's come out, and they're marketing their pieces against the competition that may already exist. So how do they do that? How can they plan promotions or sponsorships or product placement, maybe, or having celebrities endorse things, or having print or non-print media, maybe online, having bloggers or people that write about fashion feature some of the merchandise that they are promoting. They have to develop a strategy for the organization or for that brand, and they really have to be in touch with who are the major players, right, within the industry. And as you're probably aware, fashion has really changed in terms of how things are sold, promoted, and marketed to the clients now. There's a lot of celebrities. The whole red carpet fashion scene has made, or sometimes um, hurt certain designers, depending on how the celebrities have been received by the public. So I think it's a very interesting field if you are not on the designing side, and perhaps not so much interested in the production side, but really want to be the person who's more of an influencer. I don't talk too much about the types of marketing that you can do, because there are so many, but certainly the strongest, the hottest, is the social media marketing that's been happening, on various websites, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat. People are selling their merchandise through these messaging forums, if you will, and it's become a new way outside of magazines and other print ads or TV ads to sell merchandise. So keep that in mind. Okay, so now we'll also look at some other um, titles here on this slide that you may not be as familiar with. You know, back in my day, they didn't have a personal shopper title, job title, but it does exist. So this is someone who is, their sole responsibility is to find and purchase merchandise that is pre-selected for a client's taste, occasion, season, and personal style. So you get to know that person. You have to have good interpersonal skills. You have to have good insight. You certainly have to be on trend, and make sure that the suggestions and the purchases that you make fit in line with the client's wardrobe, and what they're trying, the image that they're trying to portray for themselves. You now have people that are more than personal shoppers, that go a little step further, that are personal stylists, that may really be looking to reorganize or revitalize a client's closet, to make sure that they are constantly coming out and presenting themselves in the most suitable way. Even if it's just a casual event, there are more and more men and women who want to be represented with an eye towards fashion. Showroom coordinator, certainly we've had students with this major become more involved in the showroom role. So that's really more of a maintaining the visual presentation of the showroom, that's appealing to certainly more of the buyers, but also clients and customers visiting. Maintaining the sample logs for styles that end up being borrowed. Sometimes stylists will borrow to show samples to their clients. But, a showroom is also, sometimes you have retail showrooms where, customers can come and buy things right out of the showroom. Fashion forecaster, there's another title that may not have been so common in the past, but these are people that are interpreting and evaluating what's on trend, what's not. They're predicting long range, visions for, various fashion lines. They also will create reports for designers, retail, textile buyers, so people are prepared for, the latest seasonal, lines, and what colors and what fabrics should be at the forefront of, any on-trend fashion line. So they're more of a resource to help to have designers, buyers, and members of the press be aware of anything that's new and exciting, or that might be old and now, déclassé, if you will, because, something new has emerged. All right, so we're rounding out the last two common titles in the industry: the website designer and the retailers. So many of my students, are not so excited about working in retail, but I have to say that this is where, a large majority of the opportunities lie and exist. So they're primarily, retailers are looking at distributing, merchandising, and selling not just garments, but merchandise of all kinds. So, accessories, shoes, home fashions, as I said, to consumers. And so you have the retail version, and then you also have, oftentimes the wholesale, you know, um, uh, market. So, at the retail market, is where you're going to find specialty stores, department stores, national chains, discount and off-price stores, outlets, mail order companies. You have a lot of emerging online shopping services, interactive TV shopping merchandise. So, um, if you think of your QVCs, your home shopping club, if you think about Stitch Fix, I'm just naming a few that come to mind. Um, Gwynnie B. So these are different types of and very new emerging fashion retailers that are changing the industry and providing a more direct source for some of the clients or customers that may in the past have not been able to find what they're looking for in a store. Um, and then you have the private label retailers. So Macy's has their own private label, Sears has a private label. So when you see those, they go beyond the traditional role as distributors, and then they become, you know, competitors with other designer labels, sourcing their garments from manufacturers and contractors or creating them on their own. So it's a very interesting time for retailers, looking online as well as at the brick and mortar stores to see what's happening with those types of jobs. And certainly, people do get discouraged when I talk to students because, they know that there's a lot of pressure with those jobs. You do have to make your numbers. There are sales goals, there are commission goals. But I also have to say that, the bottom line with fashion is, there is that artistic side, but it is what are you selling? At the end of the day, if designers are creating things that will never sell, then the industry won't be around for long, certainly. So, you have these shows that talk about the fashion industry, um, you know, um, Project One Runway being one of the most popular ones. You see how they have constantly, made it more and more aligned with certain merchandisers, who are being featured on that show, as well as, with the magazines or the publicists talking about how something can be made more commercial, so that they can sell, because that has been a real challenge for the industry. Okay, and then finally, let's talk about website designer. Now, if you're a techie person, if you're a creative but more on the technical side, this is the type of job for you. You could be the person who's designing the websites, the content, who is organizing banner ads or creating newsletters that are digital, implementing, any programming or computer applications for consumers to be able to, get the merchandise or understand the merchandise or see the merchandise and be able to, get a visual, but, on the computer, of how the color might be, how the pattern might be, how the fabric might be. So, definitely, as the computer programs become more and more sophisticated, you're seeing more and more, um, um, designers come up with, computer programs or software that complements what they're trying to do in the store. So, a company like Stitch Fix would never be able to exist without very complex, very sophisticated website and software designers who are working closely with the creatives to make sure that the look, the feel, the functionality is pleasing and appealing to their consumer base. And so, I encourage you, if you do have, a technical inclination and you want to work in a more creative industry, to look at some of these other job titles that exist, because they're a way for you to nurture both sides of your skill set. Okay, so here's where I want to talk a little bit about textile and apparel furnishing. So remember I said that, home furnishings is another area of the fashion industry that is sometimes overlooked. So here we have three titles: Fit Specialist, which is looking at, you know, efficiently and effectively making sure that the construction and the execution and the pattern fitting of the merchandise has been executed. So, certainly this is not just with apparel, but with footwear as well. Merchandisers, we already know, so these are fashion visual merchandisers that may look at, home fashion, so like upholstery, or looking at, bed clothing, looking at window coverings. So just looking at all different sides of the industry in the business, wholesale, retail, developing a merchandising plan that includes product development, seasonal calendar trends, because there are people that change their home fashions from season to season. May have a fall look, may have a spring and a winter look, may have a summer home that they decorate, with specific trendy colors or fabrics or other merchandise. So important to keep that in mind. And there are showroom managers in the textile and apparel furnishing industry as well. So people overlook the textiles industry, but really, no fashion could exist without creating the textiles. So, creating the different types of fabrics, the different types of prints or solid, or, looking at if it's going to be, a specific color. So that, the showroom managers are developing the buyer lines, print in print and in non-print media, helping to develop, a showroom that looks appealing to all of those types of vendors, organizing the collections in a way that strongly represents the designer's vision, processing orders, of course, motivating the sales force, because showrooms are a type of sales environment, but also working with people that are interested in borrowing samples to market and maybe present in TV or film or in an office, to give, more publicity, to a line. Okay, so in the public relations realm, because this is another area of marketing, if you will, for fashion, you have event coordinators and public relations coordinators. So these are people that are planning events, conceiving of the event, developing every aspect. They have to be very strong, detail-oriented people, looking at all different aspects of an event: caterers, prop houses, publications departments, celebrity agents. They have to be there before the event and they have to be there after the event for follow-up. And they may handle all the different logistics with a team, or they might be the one primarily responsible for coordinating every aspect. So, if you like to be busy, you like to have a lot of different things on your plate and sort of manage a project, from beginning to end, that event coordinator role may be for you. And then the public relations coordinator, that could be someone who is also interested in events, but is also looking at more than just one event, maybe looking at press releases, providing news for the mass media journalists, looking at interviewing and getting information from the designers or anybody that's involved, maybe the models, maybe talking to, the various media, social media, as well as print or non-print media, to promote, what's going on within that line or within the industry itself. Um, Arranging tours, setting up appointments for new product introductions, following up on what's happening with that company's public relations strategy. creating and developing special events, that the event coordinator will then execute. And they definitely have to be involved with some of the logistic details, hiring the models, booking photographers, making sure that there is a positive image for and reputation, being presented by everyone that's involved with that client. Okay, so want to talk about software here just briefly because certainly, you want to have good ideas, inspiration from wherever it may come from when you're working within this field. But one of the main issues that I know employers tell me is that they really have difficulty with some of our students who are interested in some of the more higher level, higher functioning managerial roles, leadership development roles, but they don't have Excel. They don't know how to crunch numbers. They don't know how to report data. So it's really important to learn this in your program. Whether you're in the fashion merchandising or the marketing or the management program. When you're looking more on the creative side, maybe in the marketing, you might look at the other three, the Adobe Illustrator, the Corel Draw, the Fashion CAD, to be able to be familiar with those programs if you need to create something for your supervisor, or if you need to create something for yourself, if you're working on a line and, you want to, be familiar with this type of software. So what about jobs? Oftentimes students will tell me, I have trouble finding jobs. I'm not sure where the jobs are. How can I find things? Certainly Berkeley Connect should be your first resource. Those are where we put, our relationships with employers. But we do have employers that we have relationships with that are beyond Berkeley Connect. So sometimes they may not be in Berkeley Connect, the jobs that you may apply for and outside resources. Make sure you are connecting with your assigned career counselor so that that counselor can follow up with you wherever you happen to be applying if you find a job on any of these websites that I'm going to start telling you about. So this is a sample listing. We do have a number of other places where you can apply. So here are some fashion editorial opportunities here on the website, ed2010.com. And you can see that they're all over. Certainly New York is a fashion industry hub, so there's a lot of opportunities within that area. But creative jobs at crop.com, you can see there's a lot of really great creative positions in California and Missouri, Washington, D.C., Atlanta, New York. Fashionjobsnetwork.com, that's another great resource for opportunities. You can see here, I had my student employee do a sample search. You can see how long ago those positions were posted, and you can see where they were originally posted as well. So it's sort of like an aggregate type of website. It'll scour the internet and find opportunities. Style Careers is another great website that has opportunities at various locations: Miami, New York, New Jersey, California. USFashionJobs.com also has great opportunities in there. JBC Style is a fashion staffing agency, but they have great opportunities there as well. Businessoffashion.com. This was one that I found in some of my research, where they have opportunities all over the world. So you can see for some of my online students that might not be in the United States, you can see Singapore, United Kingdom, Germany. I just wanted to show you the variety of opportunities that were available. And this search was done in the summer, so you can see that there are things that are posted for mid-June at that time. Apparelsearch.com is another great site that has agencies postings on there. So you can see it describes some of the retailers that have fashion opportunities and gives you some idea of what they have, what they sell, their merchandise, and where they're located. So it's a great way to do your research, I think, on the industry if you're not familiar with some of the names of the stores that you might see advertising. You know, outside of doing a Google search, you can also look here. And so these are just a sampling of some of the websites that I would recommend beyond Berkeley Connect. There's untold numbers, and I'm always learning of new ones. And if you hear of a new one, please, of course, feel free to let me know. So that's the end of my presentation tonight. I appreciate you attending. If you want, as I said before, more information, please feel free to reach out to me. My contact information is right there on the screen. You can email me at floor-dorsalym@berkeleycollege.edu. Give me a call as well. My extension is 6407. Or you can email our general mailbox, Career Services Online at berkeleycollege.edu, and our general extension is 6475, or reach out to your assigned career counselor. Thanks again. I hope you found this information useful for your fashion major.